People living in small towns. What's the recent scandal? The school gym teacher was fired after being caught masturbating in the equipment room. He was caught by 2 students. A few days later he killed himself. Everyone is a bit shaken up about it. A teacher posted a link to a porn site on his website for classwork instead of the recent assignment, and got fired immediately. Apparently this wasn't his first offense. Drama class was interrupted by a cow giving birth in the field across from the school. A local police department likes to post wanted pictures on its Facebook page. The other day, I saw one of their poopty wanted postings of some woman who is allegedly evading police for drug charges and intent to distribute. The suspect herself commented on the post and said, "I'm not evading. I'm not on the run. I've been out of town. And when I come back I'm turning myself in." Maybe not a scandal, but I thought that was pretty funny. We don't know who, but someone has been going around egging random cars and throwing full water bottles at people's windshields. Our city council just voted to give themselves a 103% raise. My grandparents' small town has had a recent outbreak of teenagers riding horses through the middle of downtown while wearing nothing but face masks. It has happened a total of 3 times now. Always different kids. Always different horses. The town went with the lowest bidder for a big roadwork contract. And it turns out they were totally unqualified for the job and were messing stuff up. So the town fired them and hired the second lowest bidder. Same thing. They are on their 3rd contract now. And the project, which was supposed to be done this summer, will hopefully be finished sometime next year. The guy that's been trolling our town's community Facebook page finally got banned. Lol. We have a tourist train. Runs from town A to town B. It was a particularly dry summer and the train started a fire that spread over 75,000 acres. The town is now suing the train station for loss of income, as we are a tourist town and our income is solely based off of tourism. And no one wants to go tour a smoky town in Colorado. I'm not sure of the exact number, but I think it's in the ballpark of tens of millions of dollars. During my sister's volleyball game, one of the super aggressive sports dads slapped someone else's kid cause apparently she set the ball into a bad positioning. And that caused his daughter to miss the spike one. His kid is poop at the game too. I played volleyball for a long ass time and my mom sent me footage of the set. She set that ball beautifully for the small league she's in 3. They won the game. Just be happy. The entire community is turned against him right now and the family of the girl is considering pressing charges. Which I feel they should, cause this guy has gotten close to crossing the line before and he needs to be reprimanded for his actions. Edit. A lot of you have commented about how he didn't get his ass beat at the game. No one had the chance because immediately realized he fricked up and ran out to his car. He drove away, leaving his kid to be embarrassed and alone in a court full of people pissed at her dad. One of the nice moms gave her a ride back to her house where she spent the night, and on a happier note, I've just learned from my mom that charges are being pressed and investigations into the living conditions in his house are being conducted. I'll update when the results come in. A pigeon got caught in the supermarket and it made front page of local news website with live updates. Town wanted to decommission the airport. The people did not. The people won. My small town includes a pretty large zoo and a tapir has recently escaped and is still at large. I left my small town years ago, but I was home over Thanksgiving and got an earful. The local grocery store was renovated, expanded after 30 years and now everything's moved and you can't find nothing. I was home for 4 days and literally every new social interaction with people in town involved the goddamn grocery store and how awful it is now. Spoiler, it actually looks quite nice and they hang signs over the aisles telling you where things are. You know, like a grocery store. A couple months ago someone left their fire pit in their driveway for a few days. They received a mailed letter from an anonymous neighbor shaming them for making the neighborhood look bad. The recipient then posted the letter on the town's Facebook page. People ran with it and created the first annual front yard fire night. Somebody in town has a bunch of mannequins in their front yard. A substitute teacher at the high school started smoking a joint in class in front of students. Edit. Apparently it was some kind of weed pen. Not an actual joint. Our newly elected mayor, who is a school teacher as well, caused in a head-on car crash injuring 2 small children in the other car. She was found to be drunk and it was 3:30 p.m. on a weekday. The kicker, she wasn't charged with a crime, as of yet, but she did resign after considerable thought. Not really recent. But the owner of the petting zoo turned out to be a serial murderer and buried 2 corpses under the goat enclosure. A lot of kids volunteered there and walked over them unknowingly. He murdered the couple. And used their house, car and money. The scandal in my town is always the same. Someone is sleeping with someone else's husband. Or the 50-year-old dating the 18-year-old. Our town's more medium than small, but whatever. A month or so ago a couple high school gangs got into a huge mosh pit fight. About 6 months or so ago a college student got arrested for beheading his mother. Nothing really. Other than a few porch pirates. Someone did shoot at one of them. But no one was injured, at least. Since then it's stopped for now. There's no police station in town and the nearest one is a half-hour drive, so sometimes we have to take matters into our own hands. Meth. But that's nothing new. Edit. The responses of "it must be my state" is kinda alarming. Somebody's been murdering horses and PD is blaming wild boars. But at least a couple of the horses were shot, so. Well. The latest scandal is that the local amphibians experts are too busy to look at our village pond this year. We only want to make sure we make it good for the wildlife. So now we're on the hunt for our amphibian expert. Girlfriend works in a nursery in a medium-sized town. A knife-wielding intruder broke into the nursery and they had the entire building on lockdown. Thankfully nobody was hurt and the man was quickly apprehended. Edit. Didn't actually enter the building. He was spotted nearby. The nursery was still on lockdown and all the staff and children had to be evacuated to a safe room. Our local brewery is shutting down and many loyal patrons are feeling lost. In 2017, we had some kid going around to random porches and lighting bags of his own poop on fire. He never got caught. It's more of a village, but turns out the now 90 years old teacher that everyone had as a teacher wasn't just really forgetful. Turns out she was in a car crash and got short-term memory loss. My grandfather comes from a small town with less than 5k people and it is kind of spread around into smaller districts. So essentially his district has about 500 people and the bakery turns into a bar at night. I grew up going there at least twice a month until I was 14. And once a month until I moved abroad for a while. Despite being such a small town. And greeting the mayor, who was the local butcher, every time my family needed to buy something. The butcher shop was also the second biggest market in town. We had big town issues. One of the biggest issues was corruption, and since the town planned on expanding, was building a new public school and whatnot, they got some extra funds from the state. Our friendly butcher mayor decided to crack down on the folks that were stealing public money and he ended up being shot to death by 2 men in a motorcycle. In front of his 6-year-old while they played in a park near one of the main squares. I was in town that weekend and everyone was instructed to lock all windows and doors since the 2 men weren't caught. All lights were out by 7 p.m. and I could not think of a more terrifying evening. All my time spent there with the exception of when 3 years later a jaguar decided to visit me at midnight in the little bedroom outside the main farmhouse. Not really a scandal per se, but a man in my hometown beat up a bobcat that tried to attack his dog. The bobcat suffered to most injuries. The mayor died and his dog is now in a shelter because his son won't take care of it. A vacant house exploded and no one is sure what caused it. We think our prized manatee was killed instead of accidentally drowning. Edit. Of course, one of my highest upvoted comments ever is about a dead manatee. SMH, thanks for all the silver. There are no scandals in my town. The town authorities cover everything up. I live outside the town limits. But recently some people got mad that the mayor was gonna replace the four-way with a roundabout when all they wanted was a traffic light. A fake. They just put a turning lane on the road going north-south. A local ass has been taking people's money to do house repairs and not doing the work. Did it to an elderly lady in her 80s whose daughter is my mom's friend. And the daughter has been telling everyone, and now the ass wants to sue her for defamation. By telling the truth. Guy's as bad as his dad, who ran for mayor and lost badly because nobody liked him and was caught telling lies. Better than last year's scandal. Someone was breaking into seasonal homes and was eventually caught with the stuff, drugs, and firearms. Terrible heroin epidemic. Brother's best friend who was fairly close to our family overdosed a few days ago. My brother only has maybe 2 childhood friends left because of this. The biggest that I know of was a bully and overall bad guy from school that I sat next to in art class and tried to help, and it was arrested for murdering a 20-year-old girl during a drug deal. He was going to buy weed off her but decided to shoot her, later stating he wanted to know what it felt like to kill somebody. She didn't die right away either. He and a buddy of his, drove around for 2 hours in her car while she slowly suffered. And if they had taken her to a hospital she would have likely lived. He was 17 at the time. I believe. Was a couple years ago. But not much really happens here, thankfully. Some frequent at a smoothie shop didn't pay. She said she'll be back and went across the street to her workplace. She never came back to pay. So the shop called the work to be like, yo. So she had to do the walk of shame back to the smoothie place. Got heated on Facebook. The shop had to show security footage. Classic crazy Karen vs inexperienced business owner. I don't live there anymore. But my hometown recently voted to allow the sale of alcoholic beverages within the city limits. I'll toast to that. Someone posted some kind of dynamite into a mailbox and it blew up. 5 years later they don't know who it is. Probably just teenagers being stupid. 2 cousins just got married. The families all knew when they started dating and didn't say a word until they were in a committed relationship. They went ahead with it. Wasn't even very distant.